Hi there, it's Sam from pootles.co.uk. Thank you very much for joining me today. Today's project is this one. It's a card. I don't do cards very often, but I saw a technique over on Christina Werner's channel and I loved it. And I think she called it paper smooshing or watercolour smooshing. I don't remember. I kind of watched the video and then watched about 15 others and don't remember. I can't find it again. But I kind of did remember the techniques. I thought it was really cool and I remember it was her. But I loved it. So it's a watercolour sort of effect using acetate. Now, what I've got is a piece of cardstock that I've cut in half. So I cut mine down the length. I like a 10-fold card. Cut it down the length and then scored it in half. So whether it's 8.5 by 11 or International A4 doesn't matter. My two layers, this is watercolour paper. This is 2 centimetres shorter and narrower. So you're going to go for about 3/4 of an inch shorter and narrower. And this one, it's 1.5 centimetres shorter and narrower, so about ½ an inch. So that's how you get this bigger border of colour. Now I went with Elegant, no I didn't, I went with Perfect Plum, and my two colours are Elegant Eggplant and Perfect Plum. I'm going with Sweet Sugar Plum and Rose Red. You need to do some heat embossing first, because this is heat embossing going on back here. So I have got my first sight stamp set. I'm going to go with this one. Get it out ready on my block. And I've got an E block because I want to see exactly where I'm putting it. So watercolour paper, embossing buddy. This has got just as it's almost talcum powder, but it just takes the static off. I've got I have two Versamark ink pads. One's my dirty one and one's my clean one. So that's my dirty and that's my clean. So I'm going to work with my clean one. Because obviously I'm going to do clear embossing. Ink up my stamp. And then position this where I want it to be. So I want the swirl to be off towards the bottom. Press down firmly. And I've got a scrap of paper over here. And I'm going to put my clear powder over the top. So you're probably not going to see a great deal. But hopefully, there we go. You should be able to just about see it. Now that is a sort of a powdery effect at the moment. When I put my heat gun over it, it heats it up and melts it. So, oh, I need to do some more shopping. Good excuse. Right, so I'm going to turn my heat gun on now. So if you've got me up at full volume, turn it down. And I'm warming it up on my hand first because I'm trying to avoid my paper buckling too much. And when I bring it over here, it will go from this matte effect to glossy, which I'm not sure how well you're going to see. I'm not sure how well I'm going to see. There we go, it's just about to go now. So it's just going glossy. And it's ever so slightly raised. Okay, so that's my embossing done. So you can see that the colours across it a bit more. So it is very slightly buckled. We're not going to worry about that too much. Now, what I need now is I've got a spritzer because I want to get some water across this. Move everything out of the way. So water on there, and I'm just going to dab. I'm going to leave it for a second. And I'm going to dab some off. And what I've got is I've got 2 clear blocks here. These are C blocks. And I've got my Rose Red. And I'm going to turn them into like a watercolour palette. And then my Sweet Sugar Plum, which I put back. Oops. Move that out of the way. My Sweet Sugar Plum. And that's inked up as well. So you can see the colour differences. I'm just going to dab off some of this water because I don't want it sopping wet, but I do want it wet. Now, here comes the fun part. Get your water spritzer again. And let's see if I can do this without... I would normally do this off my desk, but... Oh. So I've got a bit of water on there and some on there. And I've got a piece of window sheet. No particular size. I don't know where you can be able to see it, but... I've got a piece of window sheet that's about the length of my hand. There we go. And you just come into your first colour and smoosh it about and pick it up like that. It doesn't matter which side you go, but you just push it onto your watercolour paper and come back and get some more if you feel like you need it. And you can push it about, and like I say, I think she called it paper smooshing or watercolour smooshing or something like that. I don't know that there was a technical term, but I know that there is, you end up with a different one each time. It doesn't ever look the same. I'm just going to clean that off on there and come in with this darker colour, this beautiful rose red, and start sort of, I'm lifting it and moving it and smooshing it about. Get some more. I want to make sure that I've got everything, that you can see the design underneath. So that means kind of dragging. I want to blend it in a little bit. And it does look quite a mess at the moment. We're not worried about that. But what you do need to do is come and dab over the embossing. So just the embossed part. Come in with a bit more if need be. A bit more down there. A bit more of this sweet sugar plum up there. And then, look at this mess. Oh, it's going to hurt my brain. I've got another piece of the same watercolour paper, because watercolour paper is not white. You can see that against this. And I've got the word Forever Friends, or the words Forever Friends from the same set on a longer block. And I'm going to, because it's a rubber stamp, not a clear stamp, I need to line it up. So I'm using my grid paper and getting everything very messy and inky. So, and I'm going with stays on this time. I want black. Again, line that up, offset to the left a bit, and then that will leave me room to come in with some completely the wrong colour candy dots. Where are my candy dots? There they are. They're not candy dots either. They are enamel shapes. So I'm just letting that dry off a little bit. Probably would want to leave it to dry longer than I can do in order to get this finished for you. I'm going to bring in my black. It's fairly dry actually, to be fair, but some fast fuse on the back. Good amount of adhesive when you're using watercolour and you haven't let it dry. Dimensionals on here. And this is great if you've got any bloopy bits and you want to get them covered up. I don't have any bloopy bits and I don't want to cover them up, so that's okay. And then that mounted on your card. And I think that is just the coolest technique ever. What a mess on my desk, but it's lovely. And I've gone with the same stamp set and it's not come out the same at all because my smooshing has gone different. Watercolour smooshing, I think that's what I'm going to call it. I don't know what anybody else calls it, but that's what I'm calling it, with a piece of acetate. Anyway, thank you ever so much for joining me and I hope to speak to you soon. Bye.